So let me welcome all of you on today's Global Gobeshona Conference. Three organizations, particularly Nature Conservation Management, Aronnok Foundation, and CODEC, jointly joining this conference. They will actually present their work, what they are doing at the community level, providing the experience of community-led adaptation in the area of coastal region, particularly focusing on Cox's Bazar area. As we are aware that this coastal region is always vulnerable and hotspot, climate hotspot, and community of that area is particularly vulnerable due to impacts of climate change. Considering that vulnerability, USAID provided support to these three organizations in order to implement local works with the community. So USAID support make three organizations to do some community-led adaptation activities in order to address the impacts of climate change and to enhance the resilience of the community. So from NACOM, Dr. Abdurrahman Mullah, Chairman, Nature Conservation Management, would share experience from NACOM activities from Cox's Bazar area. Dr. Abdul Quddus from Aronnok Foundation. Dr. Quddus will provide his experience from their activities, and Mr. Sheetal Kumar Nath from CODEC, he will also present their activities, what they are doing at the field level in order to enhance the community-led adaptation activities. So with these notes, I also would like to mention that Professor Nishad, who was actually agreed to be the chair of this session, but because of his health reason, he could not join with us. Farah Kabir and Shakil. I see that Shakil already joined, and I hope that Farah would join.
Assalamualaikum. I have joined.
Oh, Farah.
Walaikum
Assalam. Welcome. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much, Farah. So our Farah is already joined. They will actually would be the discussant. So I will not take that much of time. I would like to request Dr. Abdurrahman Mullah, Chairman, Nature Conservation Management, to share his experience as community adaptation practices in Cox's.
Disabled. It seems that the share is disabled by the host, so it needs to be open.
Yes.
Amina, can you please help?
Yes,
him?
I'm requesting the IT team to promote Abdurrahman Mullah to co-host, please, so that he can share his screen. Yeah, I think you can share your screen now. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Should I go?
It's okay.
It is sure.
That's fine. Please go to the presentation mode.
Going, but there is some problem.
Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, just as you can now view this.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, so Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I think it is a great opportunity for us to share our experiences going through the implementation of EcoLife project. It is a USA supported project. Let me first tell something about the EcoLife. We are implementing with the support of USAID Bangladesh the EcoLife project in the Cox's Bazar area for last 2 years. Eco-life activity mainly relates to 4 thematic areas. First, the habitat restoration and species conservation, livelihood development, promotion of alternate fuel use, and capacity building of local level community and co-management institutions. All activity under the Eco-life are implemented following the locally development principles. That means the local people prioritize their needs, development needs. They prioritize, they identify, prioritize, and design and implement and monitoring the project activities. So our thought is that we are talking only on the livelihood aspects of the Eco-life, and in fact, the livelihood development activities in the Cox's Bazar region, we started a long back, and it was not in the shape as into we see today there. As a strategic approach, NACOM promotes AIG activities among local poor resource users for reducing the dependence on natural resource. That is our main objective. However, we also wish to increase the household incomes for their better life. We are mainly working in the coastal areas, and we are working in the Cox's Bazar area for more than 25 years, and most of our livelihood beneficiaries are in that area. As you told that we, in our most projects, we integrate livelihood development as a trade-offs for nature conservation. So at this moment, for the last few years, we are facing problems that the livelihood activities are sometimes jeopardized by the local level climatic disasters. So as we know that the Cox's Bazar region and the coastal areas are the exact site for the multiple climate change events, and the local people are very vulnerable to these impacts, and particularly the poor people. So we decided that we felt it was necessary to adapt to this changing climates, the local activities, the habitat restoration, whatever is there, we are doing needs to be adapted to the changing climate. So our efforts started with a project called the Climate Resilient Ecosystem Livelihoods, CREL. It's also an USAID supported project, and we made an effort to promote climate compatible livelihood activities among the poor people there, and subsequently the activity rolled through the USAID's this Eco-life project for further consideration of the process. We also replicated or implemented projects, livelihood activities under UNDP supported CBEC project and the Department of Environment ICPAT project of the Forest Department. These two projects are implemented in the coastal areas, and especially CBEC was project in the ECA of the Cox's Bazar region. So this implement AIG, we call it alternate income generating activities as we relate to this reduction of dependence on natural resource. So we are providing them like alternate livelihood that does not include the use of natural resources. So this provided us an opportunity to investigate the issues related to successful implementation and sustainability of coastal livelihood development. As you know, why livelihood is resilient livelihood is necessary. Why it is? Because if the financial condition is better, people can absorb the shocks of the climate change impacts, and that reduce their vulnerabilities. For example, if a poor people has some money and his house is devastated, then he can, if he has money, he can rebuild it. If he does not have money, if he does not has money, then he cannot rebuild it. So it is necessary to have financial capability to compare with the changing climate. And again, the livelihood activities are in different ways are jeopardized or disturbed or damaged by climate change disasters and other impacts. So it is necessary to adapt to the situation, how these damages can be reduced, how it can be avoided by changing the technology or changing some other activities. So in my presentation, I am only, as I told you earlier, I am only emphasizing on the livelihood development aspects and how actually we try to develop and consolidate it through our past projects. So I'll talk about the approaches and methods we employed to introduce and promote the climate resilient livelihood activities, and what we have achieved so far, and what constant challenges we faced in the process of implementation of these livelihood activities, and what our success, and what are our thoughts for achieving the sustainability of livelihood activities in the area. This is the EcoLife project activity area. We are working in 3 forest protected areas and 2 ECA areas of Department of Environment. You can see here the location of these places, these sites. When we had, as I told you, that we had been implementing, promoting the livelihood for a long time. But until the CREL project, we did not think about the climate change issue in our livelihood activities. So in this purpose, as we did in the CREL project, we actually conducted village level participatory climate change vulnerability assessment exercises. So it's called PCPA. So it looked into what are the potential impacts there, what are going to be impacted, and how it can be mitigated or adapted to there. So that is the type of thing we did at the beginning. And with another project that we received fund from the Climate Change Trust Fund, we investigated the impacts of climate change on agriculture, fisheries, biodiversity, and livelihoods and of the Cox's Bazar area, and also documented the adaptations evolved within the communities by the time, and they have already adopted this, and they further identified the adaptation needs and what actions are required. Also, under the EcoLife project, we performed feasibility study on the locally available livelihood options with a strong consideration of climate change impacts. So we identified about 14 to 15 options, I mean the trades that can be promoted in the area. And this feasibility, the purpose of the feasibility study, that is the livelihood options which we are promoting will be feasible to promote there, whether it will sustain or not. So we considered a lot of areas, and principally 6 criteria we applied, and that's the knowledge and skills available, profitability, and the investment technology required, vulnerable to climate change, and marketing opportunities and sustainable issue. This issue we consider while we selecting the feasible options for promotion among the local people. So we did not only practice this or promoted this livelihood development activities only in these two projects, but we also promoted in other two projects that I told earlier. There is ICBR and the CBSA project. In addition, we also promoted some non-climate compatible AIG activities. We call it climate smart agriculture or CSA practices. And I will talk about something more later. In Cox's Bazar areas, we work with about 4,200 livelihood beneficiary households, and among them, more than 70% are female-headed households. And during the last 7 to 10 years, a lot of changes were made in the technologies and in the implementation strategies of livelihood activities that we promoting there. So it is different from the earlier with which we started. This shows how we performed the PCBA, village level participatory climate change vulnerability assessment. And this next part slide, which shows how the local people gather money, and there are some demonstrations. I think I can come later. Yeah, and farmers field schools, and the women group meeting, and the BCG meetings, etc. So that thing is coming. The slide has come earlier than before my text. So the methods we applied and the processes we followed was we organized the local poor people into smaller user groups. We call it VCF, Village Conservation Forum, or Village Conservation Groups. Village Conservation Forum is involved the forestry PS, and the VCG is involved with the ECI, the ecologically key areas. So we formed and mobilized 120 such groups. In promoting the livelihood, we provided trade-specific AIG skill development training. And Ecolite, we did a lot in the past, but in the Ecolite, we pertained 102 trainings programs. We also provided them some in-kind AIG inputs, and it is about, you can see the 300,675 beneficiaries, and of them, majority and outnumbered is the female households. So one thing, we provided them training, we provided them some inputs, and this time it is over 2,000 to 3,000 taka per household. We also provided them with micro capital grant, MCG. There is some grant to the community organization, the BCF and BCG, which they will use it as a revolving fund. They are also raising their own fund, and we contributed 1 lakh taka to each group. We also introduced and facilitated a group saving scheme for building communities revolving fund. In addition to our chapter, we also introduced a saving scheme in which every member, upon their decision, collect 50 to 100 taka to their fund, and which build their capital for undertaking AIG activities in the future, and in addition what we have given to them. We also facilitated opening bank account with the scheduled bank for all groups, so that all transactions are done through bank, and nothing is deposited to a person or keeping in the accounts, the group's office now. We also facilitate registration. There should be some legal obligation. This is legal binding, so that remains together works in transparent way. So the BCG, I mean the conservation group, they have been registered with the Department of Cooperatives. So can they have a look on them? They have a monitoring system. And the BCFs, they did not actually require the registration because they are administrator under the ECA rules, this is really PA rules 2017. So there is a correction, it is PA rules 2017. So anyway, they are also, this is a binding to them, this is the legal binding to them as well. We have been providing backstopping support to all groups all through. I mean, we are facilitating their bi-monthly meetings, helping them lending and repayment of their fund. I mean, we are also helping them to manage their revolving fund. So I could come later. So this is some photographs of the activities of the community. This is a hydroponic agriculture activity. This is the demonstration farm. It's a big, huge farm. We have visited some luxuriant growth. And this is mushroom culture. And there is we call the 3-layer agriculture, vegetable production. The one is the ground level, and another in the stack, and another is on the side, the sacks. So this is more, and this is climate resilient as well as more scientific and more productive. This is also some agricultural production activity under the livelihood program, and this is duck rearing, and there is dry fish making. Actually, the fish on the net is not the product. Actually, this is done in a environmental safe way without using any pesticide. So this has got an another attraction, and is more high. It can be sold at high prices. So there is no pesticide. It is poison free, and also it is devoid of any infestation. So this is also some activities. This is vaccination. I could come later, but this has come earlier. Yeah. You see, the vaccination is done by we call it LSP, local service provider. We
Sir,
also
within 4 minutes, I request you to finish your presentation.
Linked with the local government service provider. Also, we mean with the groups we have built and mobilized. We have linked them with the local government service providers, which making through workshops, and the local service providers here are government service providers at the Upazila level, fisheries officer, livestock officer, like this, agriculture, extension, I mean the other service providers, that social welfare. So this is working good, very good, and they have provided Bandhu Seva phone call. So they whenever they phone, the people respond and help them, and also they get some support from them as well in their extension program. We also developed, that was a option that we learned later, and we have introduced later the local service providers. You see, if somebody wants to raise a duckling or chicken, he needs the chicken chicks from somewhere, he needs the feeds, he needs vaccines. So if these are not available, easily available near about, it's really is a problem to them. Therefore, we have developed 37 LSPs, local service providers. They are dedicated for the supply of the raw materials, whatever the fish or chicks or something, and vaccines and medicines, and even their marketing products. One of the LSP is involved or linked with the export groups. So some caps and other nukshikata, they are marking abroad. Also, one of our strategies is to establish demonstration farms. The these pictures, the photographs I have shown earlier, some of was the demonstration farms, and that's what's very very high. Sometimes we take a group of people there and observe this, learn it. So this is very useful. We also developed and operationalized farmers field schools. So I have perhaps I've seen it. So this is some sorts of, this was introduced earlier in the Canal project, but continue in this project as well. Here the livelihood beneficiaries, they share their experience, what they have learned, what the results they have got among themselves, along with the local people, through holding field level sessions. And we have such 35 field school are there, and in the EcoLife we have already organized 147 field learning sessions. What is important is the value addition. We are not much working on this area yet, but we have already started how the commodity can be made more valuable by doing something. It could be some sorts of processing. What I showed you, the drying of fish is done in a net or in polythene, so that it does not get infested, or it is poison free. So it is more, it has more price. And we are trying to market in Dhaka, and we are trying to get BST a permission, I mean the from the government, so that the product will be more valuable. So sometimes now we are also helping them to put it in store this thing to sell it in another season. So there are some sorts of it, but not much there. But we are trying to do more in this area. We also, in addition to our support, we are also leveraging input supports from the other sources, and we have a great success. We have mobilized more than input supports more than 10 lakh taka for the local people, for our beneficiaries. So it's a good area. Achievement is, I mean, in short, I'm not giving you the hardcore data, but it is more than the livelihood options we have promoted among the local people. They are 86% beneficial households are implementing these activities successfully. I mean, they are on the operating and implementing this. And the other, it doesn't mean that they are not doing, but are not there anyway. They have been the products have been damaged, or it wasn't good growth, so the benefit was not much there.
Sir, can you finish by 1 minute? It's already
1 minute will be difficult. So we have so in addition to our beneficiary, there are already 300 people, about 300 people up to the our demonstration activities. So beyond, I mean, other than our project beneficiaries, and almost all beneficial households made increased incomes from the AIG activities. We are not telling at the moment how much they have made profit, because we will have a monitoring, final monitoring, post-intervention monitoring will be there at the end of this year, and we have baseline data, so we'll be able to tell the exact.
Sir, please, sir, within 1 minute, can you please finish it?
So you can see for example, we are showing you some individual level income from different activities and the time level it took. So you can see the good income, and from nursery on, people in 8 months made 52,000 taka income. So constants, you can say we have groups still more. There are some elite capture there, and it in some cases the groups did not work, once we since we left the group for some time. So these sorts of problems are there, and we think the reason is that there is no, in many cases there are not lack of committee leadership. Our effort is to make the committee leadership, and that we have to do, and there is no actually no government agency is directly involved with this. So we are trying to make a stewardship of these groups. Raw materials is availability of raw materials, and still the groups are reliant on our facilitations, so that need to be on their side. And the fund is not yet still meager to support the liabilities of all groups. So you have the success is the they have already collected savings is 45 more than 45 lakh taka, and that will grow about a 1 crore taka at the end of this project. And the uptake is there, and we think the LSP that we
sir, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time, so this presentation will be uploaded. They can also see the success and sustainability part. So may I request audience, if you have any question, please write it down in the chat box. This is okay. Go ahead, Hafizur Rahman. Can you just allow Hafizur Rahman to put a question? Hafiz, can you?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, my question is very simple. Actually, I am interested to know about the CCTA projects, specifically on the impacts of climate change on agricultural diversity and how the community people adapt to the changes or impacts occurred due to climate change. In the project area that is implemented or conducted by CCTA fund, could you please explain, Mr. Molla, a bit?
Okay. Let me just summarize your question in a brief way. Actually, Mr. Hafizur Rahman is asking about how you are addressing the impact of climate change while implementing your project. That is his main question or query.
Okay, there are, the numerous options. One of these is the seasonality. If we see there is a flash flood,
yeah.
Okay, hello. So then we have to think whether we can avoid this season. We can give an alternate crop there or an alternate activity there. So this is one of the options. I think there is a system for if there is a drought or long spell of drying period, then we can use mulch. Is raising the beds, using the shades. So there are a lot of things. So what are the person you have been asking for? Because we have performed a very good assessment of these sorts of things and what need to be the adaptation strategies, and we have a report on the CCTA project, and also you can see in the management CMP, the conservation management plan for ECA. The Techno Peninsula ECA and Sonadi ECA. So you can see there are a lot of options. There are a lot of strategies that can be adopted in response to climate change impacts on the agriculture, fisheries, and other things, and even biodiversity, everything. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. Now I would like to move to the second presentation. The second presentation will be made by Dr. Muhammad Abdul Quddus from Aronnok Foundation. Dr. Quddus. Dr. Quddus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody, and greetings on behalf of Aronnok Foundation. So I'll go to the screen share. I think Mullah sir needs to go out from the presentation. I cannot.
Can you help? Yeah. Is
Yes,
okay?
Kudus bhai, he is leading.
Is it okay? My
Yeah, he's
screen-
okay. Okay. Go to
Yes,
go to
Kudus bhai,
yeah, go to
yes,
presentation
your
mode.
screen is
Yeah, it's working.
showing.
It's working.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome once again. So actually, my previous presenter described the purpose of USAID's Local Watch project in Bazar. There are 3 organizations involved in USAID's Local Watch program, implementing 3 different projects in 3 parts of Bazar district. And Arunuk Foundation is one of these 3 implementing partners of USAID, and we are implementing a project titled Green Life, meaning greening environment through livelihood improvement and forest enrichment. And in today's presentation, I will be focusing on locally led adaptation and development in this Green Life project. So what is our experience in Ukhia, Cox's Bazar? So I'm not going to this detail of this scenario, as you all know what happened due to this Rohingya influx. While it was a very good humanitarian activity, but the environmental cost is very high. There has been severe deforestation and degradation of the forest, and consequent soil erosion, landslide, contamination of drinking water, and most of all, stress on the livelihood of local people. And in this context, these local watch projects have been taken. And in my presentation, I'll be focusing on our project activities very briefly. And finally, I'll share some stories from our project and what lesson we learned from that project, particularly in relation to strengthening future efforts of adaptation building of local communities. So my previous presenter has already mentioned the objectives, and we have the same objective for this Green Life project. There are 4 different areas. One is environmental conservation, and second one is livelihood improvement of these affected host communities, and promotion of alternative fuel, meaning alternative to firewood, and local capacity building for sustainable community-led adaptation and natural resource conservation activities. Although it seems that it's not all about adaptation activities, but for natural resource dependent communities and community as a whole, this adaptation depends a lot on the ecosystem, sustainability and adaptability of the ecosystem. So they are all related. We have what significant activities we have done. In fact, Arunok Foundation established co-management system even before the Sheikh Jamal Inani National Park was established in Inani in 2010. And that project implemented in partnership with the local NGO SHADE ended in 2016. And after this Rohingya influx, there was massive deforestation. On the other hand, there was no CMC at that time because the Inani CMC was gazetted in 2019. So we reformed the CMC and all its organization, subsidiary organizations like People Forum, Village Conservation Forum, etc. And they are in, they are working well now. So we have established 5 CPGs. CPG is community patrol groups with 112 members. They are providing this joint patrol duty with Forest Department staff under the direction of local Forest Department officials, particularly beat officers and regions officers. And there has been significant improvement. A lot of encroached lands have been recovered, and forest crime has declined very significantly. And similarly, we have established 4 elephant response teams as the human-elephant conflict is very high due to this forest degradation. And they are making community awareness, and also they are trained in dealing with elephants when they enter into village and crop fields, how to deter these wild animals in cooperation with other villagers, and also rescuing wild animals in danger. And we do a lot of community awareness raising activities through celebration of special days like World Environment Day, World Elephant Day. We have institutional plantation of endangered native species, and also other communication techniques like billboards, group meetings, meeting with community leaders, and also to support this nature conservation or restoration activity. We are supporting a network of 50 private nursery owners in Ukhia and Cox's Bazar who have been trained in Chittagong University Institute of Forestry on these propagation techniques of endangered native species, which are now planted in the project area. And for the livelihood activity, we are doing similar kind of things as my previous presenter has mentioned. We have farmer field school, 60 farmer field school, where 1,000 and 1,800 beneficiaries, 76% women, are taking lessons on different aspects of rural livelihood activities, particularly homestead-based livelihood activities, as most of our, not most, 100% of our beneficiaries are landless. So only resource they have is their homestead. So we are focusing on homestead-based livelihood. So they have been trained in year-round vegetable cultivation in 2 different techniques. One is bed method and one is trellis method. So around the year they produce vegetables. So every week they have, every week and almost every day they have something to harvest from their own garden. And we have provided also through this farmer field school training on other topics like vermicompost, and they are now producing vermicompost for their own use, but also they're selling in the local market, mostly from their own village. And we have demonstrated 2 models of improved poultry farming. One is small-scale homestead level farming with 6 different management packages: feed, health, housing, early child separation, then improved this hatching pot, etc. There is a set of 6 technologies. And another model is mini poultry farm. The poor farmers, they cannot establish farm by one household. So in group, they can establish mini poultry farms of say 300 to 500 chicks. And similarly, they have been trained, all these 800 members of 60 farmer field have been trained in improved method of goat rearing, particularly stall feeding method, including the hydroponic grass cultivation. And we have also demonstrated the method of Napier grass cultivation. And we have also provided them with some input support like seeds and seedlings, and also to each household 5 hen and 1 cock to start this poultry, household level poultry production, and also 1 female goat to each household, female goat to rear and multiply through kids, the goat kids. And aside from that, we have in the farmer field school session, we deal with other topics like climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. We have training sessions on gender sensitization. So we have these additional topics in addition to technical topics. And most of all, the most important thing, we started with this farmer field school, but 1 year from the start of this activity, they have been transformed into cooperative type of associations. They are not yet registered, but they are on the way to be registered with the Department of Cooperative, or there are other options they are selecting now. So they have been trained, and they have been trained in all different aspects of organizational management, including financial management. They have established their savings program. Each member, they save 100 taka in their group account. And our system is that after each year, so the project will provide double of their amount. So each group of 30 people saved in 1 year 36,000 taka, and we provided 72,000 taka from the project. And this will be done for 2 years, meaning next year the project will also give the same. This is done to ensure that the participant, they also take part in their own savings program. And now the beneficiaries, they are using this revolving fund for lending money to their group members for income generating activities. And we have done an intensive value chain analysis of horticultural producers like vegetables and quick growing fruits, and also of livestock, poultry, goat, and cow, through a study involving value chain expert. And following that, we have developed 20 local service providers on livestock services, and 10 livestock and 10 LSPs on horticultural services through training, foundation training, with the help of Department of Youth Development in Cox's Bazar. The LSPs are in operation, as you can see in the picture. A livestock LSP is treating a goat. Maybe it's administering deworming tablet. And then we have some other activities like promoting tree planting and providing LPG support to the poor who did not have this support before from any project. This is done in order to reduce pressure from the forest, because all of our project beneficiaries are mostly forest dependent poor households, and many of them also live in forest land. And then for the local capacity building, our focus is on developing sustainable management capacity of co-management organizations. We have provided them the leaders of CMC training on protected area management rules 2017 and co-management system. We have organized study visit for them to the more advanced co-management sites like Lawachhora, Bakkaville, and we have also supported reconstruction of a old building of Forest Department and Inani Range Office to use as co-management office. And you can see the Conservator of Forest Return Circle is inaugurating the office. It was last January. Now I'm coming to this main part, share some stories, but I'll be very brief. And you can see a gentleman selling banana on roadside. It's on the side of Marine Drive. And actually, he is not our member. He is husband of one of our FFS member who took 1,000 taka loan and then gave it to her husband, who added some money from his saving. And then he is doing a daily business of this fruit selling on roadside and in Shamlapur Bazar. And in less than 2 months, she earned a profit of now on every day he makes a profit of 1,000 to 1,200 taka. Similarly, Rupanching Chakma, who was completely forest dependent, a shifting cultivator, a zoom cultivator, and he used to collect this broom grass and then firewood from forest. And she also took 10,000 taka loan from the Shamiti and added 5,000 taka from profit. And she is doing this business of cloth selling in her village. And in less than 2 months, she has made a profit of 10,000 taka. So there are many different stories like this Hasina here. You can see these multiple dimensions of change in a single family. With a loan of 10,000 taka, she has purchased this old sewing machine. She is rearing this poultry. Then she has also received this LPG support. From all this thing, now she has a much better life, and she is no more dependent on this forest resource collection. Most importantly, her husband was a notorious sort of forest resource collector. She used to cut trees, bamboos illegally, but now due to the commitment to this project and this alternative source of income, the family is not involved in this. And her husband is now sick, and she is also helping her husband's treatment. And another such story is this LSPs. The LSPs are not only the beneficiary of project. They are not at all beneficiary of the project. Actually, they are now businessmen. They provide these services on a business modality. And although we have demonstrated all this homestead gardening based technology, aside from this income and nutrition, it has also other benefits. For example, the husband and wife, they work together, which is not a very common in rural Bangladesh scenario. And children, aside from their other activities like going to school, they are also learning these techniques, which is also improving or building a kind of love for nature and technical skills. So these are additional benefits with long-term impact. And another very good story, you can see our Mr. Shadat Hossain Sakil, who is one of our panelists here. So he has also seen one of these models. So this particular lady, Rashida Begum, she looks after his group's mini poultry farm that is making progressively more and more income. The first cycle of 65 days production, the profit was 5,000 taka, and in the second cycle it was 8,400 taka. But in the third cycle, which is running now, they are expecting more than 20,000 taka profit, because they are now very good in knowing when to buy the day-old chick, because the profit depends a lot of things. In the past, they have purchased in the first batch one day-old chick at 38 taka, but in the last batch they have purchased it at the rate of only 18 taka. So they are expecting more profit, and they have also increased the number of birds in this mini poultry farm from 300 to 450. Most importantly, one of her neighbors have offered her to take the management responsibility of his fund that he would like to establish with 200, 500 birds, and he will be giving her 10,000 taka for every batch of 60 to 65 days. So
Dr. Kudus, can you,
yes,
Dr. Kudus, can you finish by another 2 minutes?
Okay, sir. So some risk, although we planned our activities using this climate risk assessment using USAID's climate risk management tool or CRM tool, but still then in July this year, there was an unusual flash flood and that damaged some of these vegetable fields, as you can see in the picture. And a recent study of CGIS shows that there will be more pre-monsoon monsoon and post-monsoon rain in that area, and more dry period in pre-monsoon and winter time, meaning winter dry, and in the rainfall there will be more floods and landslide. Aside from that, there will be increased of temperature by 2030. That is also the study of CGIS. So the region may experience more frequent and more severe flash flood and landslide during monsoon and post-monsoon periods, and severe drought during winter and post-monsoon. This may affect agricultural production in that area. And due to lack of adequate permanent provision of CPGs and ERTs incentive, the improvement achieved in the projects the protection of Sheikh Jamal Linani National Park may not sustain after the project period. This is a risk. And lack of income source for CMC and People's Forum is also a major concern. And of course, this access to finance for these poor people has remained a major challenge for sustainable livelihood improvement and climate change adaptation. And what lessons we have learned? When planning is done by the stakeholders, it's more effective. For example, we have given them training on vegetable cultivation, goat rearing, poultry rearing. But when they take the loan, they invest in small businesses, so which are not vulnerable to this climatic hazard. So they are more intelligent than us. And then participatory savings program, this is an effective mechanism of community-led livelihood development and adaptation. Management capacity development is the key to success of the community-based organizations, success and sustainability. So that is where we play the role, building their capacity in organizational management, financial management, business skill development, etc. And Farmer Field School dealing with homestead-based farming activities in an effective entry point for community-based development activities. So although they are doing different things, but the Farmer Field School was an entry point because villagers are disorganized, these poor people. So we brought them together through this Farmer Field School. We taught them some basic things. Now they are doing their own things using their own knowledge and skills. And homestead farming activities also contribute to nutritional security of the households. And finally, gender sensitization training that we provided played a very big role in improving this women's effective participation in work outside home. Because in the training, we invited the spouses of our project participants. So if it is a male, so invited his wife. And as most of our beneficiaries are female, so we invited their husbands to come to this session. And the session was designed in a way that they, in a participatory manner, they identified where they need to change their behavior. So that gave a very good result after this training. So these are the lessons we learned, which may help us in developing our future in a more effective, more sustainable way, and that can also contribute better in adaptation or more adaptive livelihood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kuddus. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now is I'm opening session for question. If anybody has any question, please let me know. Otherwise, we will move to the next presentation. You can write into your chat box if. Okay, I don't see any question. Hey, can a bank collaborator to bring change from? Okay, from Tahmina. There is a question for you, Dr. Kuddus. Tahmina from MTB is asking, can a bank collaborate to bring change? Whether the bank can perform any positive changes, I guess, with your activities and enhance the resilience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Tahmina. In our valuation study, we had consultation meetings with banks, including this Polish Sanchay Bank, Bangladesh Krishi Bank, and other commercial banks. And we identified the modalities and terms and conditions and various programs they are currently running. And we found that the Gramin Sanchay Bank, they are most suitable for our core groups. But now, at the moment, they are not recruiting new groups because they are in a transition period. On the other hand, the Krishi Bank, Agricultural Bank, Krishi Bank, they have also some program for the poor that doesn't require collateral. But local communities are not aware of them. So we have shared this information with our members, and so we will welcome, and do we think more banks should come forward to support these poor groups, develop mechanisms like NGOs, because when they deal with in a group, it's a kind of collateral. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tahmina, and thank you, Dr. Kuddus, for your.
Can I add a sentence here?
Please be quick.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in addition to the consultation with the banks, we also explored the possibility of taking money, for AIG from the local NGO who has such programs. So that's also an option for financing the group. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me invite Sheetal Kumar Nath from CODEC. Mr. Sheetal, the floor is yours. You can present your community adaptation practices in Cox's Bazar area. What to you, Sheetal? Yeah, thanks.
Are you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you properly, and go to the presentation mode.
Is it okay?
Not yet. You are still on the.
Is it okay?
No. No.
Oh, sorry.
I can see it.
No, we
Have
can
you
see
seen
it,
it?
but it's
I think
not
it's
in
okay.
the formal presentation mode. It's still in the slide mode.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. You can go to the slide mode.
Oh, yes, I have given it slide move. Slideshow.
Yeah. go to the slideshow.
Yes, I have given it. Is it okay? No.
Not yet.
Not yet. I think Sheetal, you can
Yeah, you can
go ahead with your
proceed.
presentation.
So, okay, sorry for that.
Mhm.
Greetings from CODEC. Dear Honorable Chairperson of this session, welcome to you. Welcome to all participants through you. On behalf of Community Development Center, we are 4 people in here. I am Sheetal Kumana, Project Director, Nature and Life Project. Then Mr. Narayan Chandra Das, Deputy Nature and Life Project. Then Mr. Roshim Barua, Nature Resource Management Manager, Nature and Life Project. Then Mr. Kamrul Islam, Governance and Capacity Building Manager of Nature and Life Project. I like to thanks earlier to presenter, Dr. Abdul Mullah, Chairperson of NACOM, and Dr. Mohammad Abdul Quddus, Senior Program Officer, Arunnak Foundation, to give the background of 3 projects. So I am highlighting only on our projects. Our title is Nature Resource Management Action in Relation with Climate Change Issues under Nature Conservation through Livelihood Improvements Projects, Teknaf Bazar, Bangladesh, shortly Nature and Life Projects. The overall project goal is similar to other 2 projects: restoration of degraded natural environment and well-being of the host communities in Teknaf wildlife sensory landscape. There are 3 key objectives. Only we will focusing on restoration of degraded ecosystem in the sanctuary, matching with our title. Here is all about the CODEC. CODEC is an Bangladeshi NGO working since 1985. At present, it is working along 700 villages of 12 districts. We are serving more than 1.5 million targeted members. There are 4,000 staffs in our organization. We are working 8 broad thematic areas, including climate change and disaster. We have implemented more than 2,000 development projects. At present, we are implementing 25 projects, including 8 projects at Bazar districts for Rohingya and host community. CODEC is one of the pioneer organizations to introduce co-management practices in Bangladesh in association with Bangladesh Forest Department. Before designing these project activities, we have consulted with the relevant stakeholders, especially Forest Department and local elites and local people. We are focusing on Rohingya influx at the forest area, forest degradation, squeezed livelihood opportunities, community willingness to work together, local adaptation planning based on the local context, priority to the local people's opinions, and local context in the livelihood development planning, community involvement in the project implementation, so that project activities will sustain in long run. Nature and Life Project actually working in the landscape area of Teknaf Wildlife Sanctuary. The area of this sanctuary is 11,615 hectares. There are 3 forest ranges and 11 forest beasts. Actually, this is a co-management project. We are implementing this project with the help of co-management platforms of Teknaf Wildlife Sanctuary. Earlier, this platform were directed by a gazette known as co-management gazette. At present, all these co-management platforms are directed by the Protected Area Management Rule 2017. To implement this project, we using 3 CMC. And there are 3 people's forum, 119 village conservation forum, root level organization. There are 5,991 household members of these BCFs. There are 18 CPG, community patrolling group, including 415 male and female members. We are implementing this project. Actually, 5 unions and 1 Purushabha of Teknaf Upazila. This project has started from May 2020 and will be ended April 2023. We have 1 year in hand. Community-led to measure works in relation with climate change issue. We have done capacity development for the community empowerment in natural resource management, and another one is physical intervention as local adaptation practices. Capacity development for community empowerment in natural resource management. We are focusing local development planning, capacity development of local people on 13 thematic areas in natural resource management, community awareness on climate change issues, advocacy and networking on local adaptation, climate financing. There are some picks up for planning for the meetings. We are escaping in detailing. We provided there are 13 thematic areas in natural resource management training to the project beneficiaries and government officials. Say protected area management rules 2017 for CMO and FD officials. Total 80% received this training. Training on organizational development for CMO members, total 64% received these trainings. Similarly, we provided gender equity and leadership development training for CMO members, ecosystem services and natural resource management for CMO members, training on disaster risks reduction for CMO members, training on financial management for CMO members, training on roles and responsibilities for community patrolling group members, training on eco guide development, training on bird washer, training on capacity development, training for gender ambassadors, earlier known as Nisarga Sahayok, training on human elephant conflict mitigation for elephant response team members, orientation on organizational development for 119 BCF and People's Forum members. Total 4,740 people received these trainings. Training on ecotourism, especially entry fee revenue sharing collection mechanism in this protected area. There are some pictures on community level different meetings, BCA meeting, CMO formation meeting, CPG meeting. Different capacity development programs, role and responsibility training for CPG members. Earlier I told eco guide training, DRR training for CMO members. Community awareness program, we have conducted several community awareness programs, environmental awareness program with the students, elephant human elephant conflict mitigation program, marine life conservation awareness program, etc. Advocacy and networking on local adaptation. There are there are some plans for their organization. They seek money from the government authorities, so they hand over their annual development to the relevant authorities. Promotion, protection materials to CPG, ERT, Eco Guide, and birdwashers. We provided all kinds of training and equipment to the relevant stakeholders in this regards. Community action in forest degradation. There are some 2 or 4 fixers in here. CPG members are in action in Mudunila beach. CPG members in action on waste cleaning and Kudumke. Human Saint protect Teknaf Nesar Park from the enclosures. Signing movement submit to the Teknaf for DC Cox's Bazar. And then community action in wildlife conservation. An elephant infant rescued by the CPCRT members hand over to the DF and range officer. Similarly, python rescue and release. Similarly, tortoise rescue and release. Climate financing support to the ecotourism. There are once there 3 places where ecotourism export, which was hampered after Rohingya influx. Now we are trying to start it. So we have done several construction and reconstruction activities in here. There are some pictures. One is CMC office for TechNAP CMC members. Another patrolling partial view of constructed CPG members resting shed. Similarly, we conducted several activities is Kudum Waicom CMC. Similarly, we conducted some activities for Shilkali CMC. There are 3 important ecotourism exports. One is from left, Gorgon Forest of Shilkali, on the middle and bottom Nesar Park of Teknaf, and right of the top Kudumke. Results of these activities, effective protection of Teknaf wildlife sanctuary ensured by the community. Community conducted more than 100 forest action under guidance of local forest department officials and cleared 20 hectares forest land from the encroachment. CPG and ERT rescued and released more than 10 wildlife in last 2 years to protect Teknaf Nesar Parks. CMC organized a human scene with presence of about 500 people and submitting signing monument to the DC Cox's Bazar via Techna, CBG participants in joint action disaster management with government agencies in last year. Second one is focusing on local adaptation practices, say nursery intervention, plantation, mother trees conservation, control open grazing in the forest, bamboo conservation, alternative forest fuel, marine life conservation. For nursery intervention, we established 6 nurseries with kind support. Results: more than 2 million indigenous saplings raised in this local nursery in last year. Indigenous saplings raised in here. New technologies, especially potting, branch cutting, compost fertilizing, organic pest control, adopting in the seedling raises, economically benefited the nursery. There are 2 pictures. One is training, another one is bamboo nursery. Plantation, we conducted total, we distributed 59,052 seedlings in the local areas. Say 8,190 seedlings distributed to 18 institutions for institution plantation. Say we conducted homestead plantation, orchard plantation. Total area covered 24.62 hectares. For species selection criteria for plantation program, we already mentioned that this is climate addressing issue. I always consider, say, locally survived species, deep rooted species, saline tolerant species, drought tolerant species, saline erosion control species, say rhizome based, especially bamboo. There are 3 pictures of different types of plantations. Mother tree conservation, it is an important training for local beneficiaries. Training on mother tree selection, seed collection, preservation, and seedling raising. Provided 89 local people along with the FD officials. Local people are now aware about the mother and plus tree conservation and subsequent activities. One thing I want to mention in here, Bangladesh Forest Research Institute BFRI Chattogram give us technical support in this regards. Control open grazing in the forest. This is one of the main activities. There is a tradition in the local area. People release their cattle in the forest for open grazing. By the grazing, thousands of seedlings and saplings are browsed by the cattle, as well as thousands of saplings and seedlings damaged through their hoof. We provide training, cattle rearing and fodder cultivation training provided to 299 local peoples. In-kind demonstration support provided to 44 PCM members. Results: high yielding variety grass, napier and sweet bamboo cultivated in 217 decimal area of the last year. There are some scope created for silage production in the area, open grazing control at the remarkable area of the forest. The bamboo cultivation, bamboo is one of the main plants of the Teknaf Wildlife Sanctuary, as well as a stable food source for elephant. The elephant is a flagship animal of this forest. Bamboo is used by the local in different aspects. Nature and Life projects have taken initiative to conserve the bamboo resources in the forest. So, project initiated training on bamboo branch cutting, cultivation, and climb management provided to 301 local people, along with the FD official. Main results is more than 0.02 million bamboo seedling raised in last year in local nursery. More than 6,000 bamboo samplings planted in last year locally. Forest Department planted bamboo seedlings as elephant forest in last year. Nursery owners are economically benefited. These are bamboo conservation. We provided bamboo longevity training to 75 better leaf cultivators. 3 bamboo treatment plants established in the area by the support of BFRI Chattogram. 3 idea sharing meeting conducted on bamboo longevity and technology at community level. Results: more than 16,000 treated bamboo sticks produced under 3 treatment plants in last 2 months. Actually, this program has started. Our target is very big. Treated bamboo using started in the farmer level. Then alternative fuel, this is very familiar to us. I am not going to measure discussion on this. We provided 2,117 ICS 10 ICS installed for institution level, 788 food savings retained heat cooker provided at community level, orientation provided training on retained heat cooker using to 119 women-headed local households. Alternative forest fuel, we have done another things, installed 2 biogas plants at present used by 7 families. Our target it will extend. Results, we know this is very common. I am not going to repeat it. Marine life conservation is our another effort. To turtle hatchery, we established training provided to 26 people on turtle hatchery management, including project and FD officials and community people. Marine life conservation awareness program going on at the community level. Results till date, we received or we collected 2,883 turtle eggs collected from 21 nests. Till date, 381 baby turtle released in the sea. Negative activities for sea turtle nesting reduced at the Bazar sea beach area. There is a success story all about Momtaz, a pioneer turtle conservator. A story of Mr. Momtaz. His age is 60. A local person who conserved the turtle eggs at the sandbeds. After hatching the eggs, she released the baby turtle in the sea. He gets entertained by himself by doing these nature supporting activities. People thought he is a mad. After a long time, people appreciated his work and support him. Nature and Life Project capitalized on his experience and supported him by establishing a formal hatchery at the Hazampara area. In his life, including Nature and Life Project people, he released thousands of baby turtles in the sea. Major outputs, notable forest cover increased to the evicting the forest land from the enclosure, reduced forest resources extraction to different project intervention, wildlife habitat restored in the forest, increased income of the targeted people, community more empowerment in the resource management, CMO are more capable for the planning and designing, decision making. Learnings, engagement of the local community of any initiative will be successful. Say community people save from the enclosures. Challenges, implementation of protected area management rules 2017 with active participation of all stakeholders. This is very, very challenge. Actually, resource limitation of Rohingya influx context of the project. We could not address all issues. Our beneficiary who requested us. Co-management practices in dormant without project support. We want to alive for long. I like to give thanks from the elephant saying. So we are working to conserve our nature and natural resources. Elephants is flagship animal of Techna Wildlife Sanctuary. Thanks will give from the elephant. Thanks to Bangladesh Forest Department, USAID, and CMO for taking initiative to conserve us. Especially thanks to all of you. If you have any questions, I am ready. My team members are ready to answer them. Thanks to all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shital Kumarnath, for your presentation of activities under the Eco-Life local works of USAID supported project. The session is open for question. If any question from anybody, you can write in the chat box, or you can ask directly. I do not see any question in the chat box, neither from the audience. Okay, thank you very much. Now then, I have to move to our next session, the discussion. We have a two panel member here, Mr. Shahadat Hussain Shakil from USAID, and also Ms. Farah Kobir, Country Director, Action Aid. They will discuss about these three presentations as well as their own, share their own experiences in the community-led adaptation activities, because both of them are very much aware and also very much effectively involved in community adaptation activities. So first, I would like to invite Shahadat Hussain Shakil for provide his experience and views on these particularly on these three presentation and as well as and other thoughts and knowledge. Thank you. Over to Shakil.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear
You can
you.
hear me clearly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, moderator, honorable moderator, my co-panelist Farapa, and the three presenters for their presentation. And thank you to all the participants who have attended this session. I have seen the number went up to 68, now it's 60, and actually utilized their valuable time. Much appreciated. So I was hoping that there will be questions for me to guide my actually comment, but as there is none, so I will take the liberty to actually provide some comments about the theme today that we're discussing, which is locally led adaptation. So at USAID, we actually are working for this theme called local solution, locally led development, localization for the, I think, last 20, 30 years as an agency. And right now, the terminology changed, but not the priorities. The terminology we are using is localization. And these three programs are one of the examples, I think, bright examples of our localization agenda. This program, these three projects are being funded through a stream we called Local Works. It's out of Washington, and this is kind of special fund. I just want to highlight that these three implementing partners are local NGOs, and that are perfectly contributing to the agenda or demand, like local bargain, localize. I don't know the actual terminology. So there were an NGO coalition in Cox's Bazar that are actually bargaining that there should be more funding steered to the local partners themselves for doing implementation directly. And this, I want to highlight that these three partners were they were our sub-grantees through an international NGO. Right now, they are our direct partners. They are our direct grantee, which we see as a success. So, coming back to the agenda, that I will say that I will highlight why we need more community-led adaptation. I just want to. While listening to the presentations, I was reading some facts and figures and the documents and just tried to put some notes. That I saw that I think till now a very limited amount of funding is from the Global Climate Fund, or the climate fund that we generally see is going to the local actors, local actions. I think it is less than 10% still. The figures may be obsolete. And also in the humanitarian assistance domain, it is less than 2.5%. So that's one side. And another side is in Cox's Bazar. It is facing three-pronged challenges, which is Rohingya influx-induced poverty, climate change impacts, as well as loss of nature. So that's another context why we are doing these projects, and why actually through local actors, directly with the local communities. In terms of climate change, I think local entities, local communities are the biggest spender in terms of adaptation spending. And actually they know exactly what to do in a lower cost and in a greater speed, doing the right things at lower cost and quickly. So we all know globally we have 8 principles of locally led development, and these 3 projects actually perfectly fitting or contributing to the number 4 agenda into there, which is investing in local capabilities to leave an institutional legacy. So I'll touch base briefly on the institutional legacy. USAID, as you may know, is working with co-management of natural resources in Bangladesh for the last more than 2 decades. and we are mobilizing local communities, forming these local level groups that we call co-management groups, building their capacity so that they can do their development work. As you have seen, the meetings, the plantations, the livelihood, alternative livelihood, so that local communities themselves can solve the local challenge, which is forest dependency, forest extraction, climate change impacts by themselves. So we are trying, we are investing for the last 20 years. I think we'll be investing more in the future, maybe in a different fashion. But we have seen gradual shift of aid dependency to complete graduation. We use a framework to determine graduation so that these community level groups can perform and actually do their development work by themselves, so that they don't need a partner like USAID or CODEC in the long run in the future. And we are targeting actually shared governance and delegating decision-making power to the lowest level as possible. Following locally led development spectrum that we use at USAID, for example, not only informing them, not only consulting them, but we are currently working in partnership with the local community to actually delegate them the leadership and power that needed. And also, on another angle, I just want to highlight that these three projects are also a very good example of nature-based solution that we talked. This is a new word that we're using, buzzword right now, that nature-based solution. But it's a perfect example of how we can conserve forest and how ecosystem and biodiversity and how those entities can serve both climate change objective as well as poverty reduction objective on both sides. So, and I also want to highlight another point that I was reading the IPCC Assessment Report 6 Working Group 2 report that was recently announced. And if you see that the adaptation options that have been mentioned there, the forest-based adaptation, if you see the table and the chart, is the highest feasible option. They're saying, the scientists are saying, with highest confidence, and it has the highest synergy with mitigation. So fortunately, we are doing forest-based adaptation through these activity projects in Cox's Bazar, which is producing multi-pronged benefits. And another side is our objective is forest conservation, and on another side, our objective is climate resilience. And through this livelihood intervention, their alternative fuel intervention, they are touching the absorptive and adaptive capacity of the resilience framework. And the transformative capacity, they are working partially by working with the policy and guidance, which is actually out of their scope, but they're touching the absorptive and adaptive capacity. But I will now comment one comment from my experience that I want to mention, that these are very small projects, and there is a question about scale and sustainability of the intervention that they're doing. For example, I have seen in the field that the livelihood intervention or the support that these projects are providing to the root level community members are very small. What I realized when they were trying to cover all the households that are dependent on the forest, their intervention extent actually is limited then, because they're now providing, I think, around 5,000 taka per household as a support, 5,000 to 10,000, I think it varies. But I was reading Avijit Banerjee, the Nobel laureate's Poor Economics book, I think a couple of months ago, and there is a question that how much there is a limit of benefit you can yield from limited support. For example, with the 10,000 taka support, there is a limit how much these families can actually extract. And there is a question in the face of in the shocks and stressors in the short term and long term, for example, a cyclone or flood, whether this intervention will sustain. This is a question. So I think in what my actually recommendation or learning that in the future, or I think in any development project, the livelihood intervention or the support that we provide, that has to be actually substantial, so that those families in the face of shocks and stressors can sustain with the benefit that they're generating. So I'll stop here, sir. I've just provided some very brief comments from my observations on learning from these activities from USAID perspective. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Shahadat Hussain Shakil. You have given a very good inputs to this discussion, because you have given overall perspective of the local works, as well as the support from USAID, and also the objective of the project that is USAID is looking for, how to empowering the local community and how to provide support for enhancing the climate resilience and empowering the local community. Thank you. Let me request Ms. Farah Kabir, Country Director Action 8, for her comments and sharing experience. Farah, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. I was wondering where to begin. Do I start with the localization aspect, or do I focus on the 3 presentations? How would you like me to proceed? Because
you can touch upon the 3 presentations, then you can go to the localization.
Right. So I think they are excellent. The presentations were excellent, and I was always very interested to learn about the climate resilient livelihood project in Cox's Bazar, the presentation by Mr. Mola, and how they had engaged and worked with the community there, creating opportunities, looking at the agriculture part of it, developing the farmers field school, creating local service providers, and then listening to Mr. Kudus and the Green Life Project, and finally the 3rd presentation. Now, when you listen to these projects, it reminded me of a number of things. One is that way back in 2007-8, ActionAid had picked up a project with the funding of European Commission called FOSHOL. And the whole idea was to support farmers across the country. And, farmers don't have an association in this country. They may have a wing in a political party, as the Krishok League or Krishok Dal of a bigger political party. But the farmers themselves did not have an association or a platform. So we worked very strongly over the years until 2010, literally hands-on on creating the Kendriya Krishok Moitri, so that the farmers could themselves have an association and create spaces and platforms for negotiation. The reason I mentioned this is that the farmers field school was very much not necessarily labeled like this, but it happened and it was picked up and built. And then we tried to create an institution and a structure. The Krishok Kendriya Moitri had governance and election and so on. But the challenge there remained, and now this is a farmers field school. You may not face the same challenge in your project, but the challenge here was that then the farmers had to take on the leadership, had to behave in the be part of the elected structure. And they would always say, well, how will I then continue working in the field? So the creation of leadership was a struggle. And in the last presentation, there was a reference that there was lack of commitment and ownership of leadership. I mean, that is something we need to crack. But what ActionAid has done, it has cracked it by working with women and promoting women's leadership. And that has really proved very successful. So I'm happy on another day to share case studies of how women, farmers, women in the communities, by taking on the leadership, have really transformed, and they're owning it. And we've had in the last few 10 years undertaken 2 projects. One is Power, which was again with women farmers, and for ActionAid, it is about climate resilient, sustainable agriculture. We have to be very careful that climate smart agriculture can be a misnomer. And it has also not necessarily been resilient and sustainable. But that's a whole school of thought, and I think it's important to understand that. So what we, working with the women farmers, we under Power Project had taken up many initiatives, and these were based in Lalmoninhat, Gaibandha, and most of it emphasizes on trying to work on adaptation, trying to address the issues that we are facing because of climate change, extreme weather, and unpredictable disasters. So there is an example there that we can share, and we have. And then it became very clear in our early stages that however much we work with the community and support them technically by providing them grants, by linking them up with the local authority, the gap that remains is the market. So we invested 10 years of making market work for women. We were supported by the Embassy of Netherlands, and we have literally worked in Faridpur, in Borguna, in Dinajpur, and it has transformed. So we have many case studies from there. Now, coming back to today's presentation and then moving on to localization. So all these examples that I've been sharing so far are parts of localization. And you were mentioning work in Cox's Bazar. Now, Cox's Bazar, we have to first remember that it was a humanitarian crisis. And the humanitarian crisis called for people experience with a humanitarian response. Not anybody, I mean, of course, the community with the first responders, they opened up and they supported the Rohingya refugees. But in that area, with the influx, it has impacted the whole response of that area. How we take on humanitarian response as well as the development work. And I know a lot of the presentations were about development work, about green preservation, conservation, about protecting the forest, the land there, and it has really suffered. And it is so obvious to the eyes. I mean, even if you're not a scientist or a climatologist, you can see that when suddenly 1 million people come and take over, start living on a space, then there's, you create scarcity of water, the surface water is depleting, you're damaging the soil, the pollution, the trees that were initially cut down. So we have a long way to go in getting Cox's Bazar, Teknaf, that area to somewhat normalcy. It's still a long process, and I think all these projects will be very, very critical. It is critical also to think long-term, and while we have created local service providers, we have created the farmers, we now also need to make sure that the women and girls are at the center, because in indigenous communities, in farming communities, in forest areas, it's always, or the majority of them have been women who have protected. 80% of the biodiversity are protected by indigenous people, of which it's mainly women. So we need to specialize in that area. And how can we do that? Because they have their indigenous knowledge. We need to acknowledge that and then provide them with new knowledge and know-how, and if there's technology. So in your farmers field schools, Shakil is there and USAID representatives are there, I would suggest that you have sessions there where they can understand some of these changes and anticipate, because we're still in a reactive mode, not in an anticipatory and future planning. So that is something that would be very useful to the extent that we can, and bring the science and the community together. And therefore, my suggestion would be to put this on the agenda. What has been achieved is admirable, but we have to think of a long term. And the community in Cox's Bazar, the citizens of this country will remain there, and they will suffer the impacts. And the climate, we know from the IPCC report, I mean, something that we have known for years, but it reinforces that the crisis is here. It's not about tomorrow. And this crisis is going to impact all of us. But this crisis impacts the women, girls, and young people in a multi-level. And their future is not even created. Prior to a future being building, it is being destroyed. And it is so fragile. So we'll have to work in those areas. The models and the activities described are very close to development models. All that has been described are things that we have all done as part of our development work. Now, I'm not saying that there is any reason not to go with the development model. Those models have given us some examples and some know-how which we should learn from, and then look at it from the climate lens. So you've got to remember that there are two lenses, two sets of spectacles you need. One is the climate proofing, and the other is for gender and inclusion. With those lenses, these projects can continue to build further. Now, Shakil was saying that, Abhijit's question about if you give 10,000 and it doesn't take you far. I agree. And in some of our discourse, we are very busy talking about resilience, and we appreciate and celebrate resilience. But what I have been saying, I went even to the Ban Ki-moon's conference on resilience in 2009, and I said there that we were living in poverty. Because of climate change, we went down to ultra poverty, extreme poverty, and you're helping us to come back to where we were before. That means back to where we were in terms of poverty, our status when we were in poverty. No, that's not the aspiration. The aspiration is that we were in poverty, we fell below that and went into the ultra poor group. We want to come back and be in a position where we are confident, self-reliant, and able to change our lives, transform our lives. So that should be the objective. And whenever we talk about resilience, I have this bell going in my head. Be careful. What is this resilience? It is resilience to shocks and stresses and the ability to cope and adapt and so on. And cope, adapt, and go back to the same lifestyle, to the same poverty, to the same social quagmire? No. And one of the areas that has not been spoken enough about, I mean, you mentioned about women, spouse groups, and so on, is how we will create the newer generation. How will we support them to build on these learnings? Is there an engagement with the young people and the younger children? Now, for ActionAid, it's easy because we work through child sponsorship. Our engagement with the community is minimum 10 years and onwards. We work with the children, their parents, their families, and that's what gave us this rootedness. Last thing is that you talked about localization. We totally, sorry about that. Ekটু আওয়াজ করেন না, please. So we started in Bhola. We came in 83 post the flooding and the cyclone, and we did work 10 years, and then we built the Coast Trust. Today, Coast Trust is one of the leaders in the NGO forum, and Reza used to be a manager for ActionAid's program, and we created Coast Trust. The journey for localization, let me tell you, was not easy. There was resistance from the local people themselves because we have these notions and understanding of status. We felt that if we were part of an international organization, our status would be different. It took a 30-year journey to change some of that mindset. And now we talk so much about localization. IPSHA works as in Cox's Bazar. IPSHA used to be a youth club. 10 years first of investment by ActionAid, it got them to a level of NGO. Another 10 years of working with them, it's got them to that capacity of national level, whether it's their youth program, whether it's the disability program. Bhaskar was an intern at ActionAid, was supported by ActionAid, and now today he works with the Prime Minister's office. And we're so proud of these institutions that we have built. And that's how localization was for us. So we stand by the community, the poor, the women, the young people. If you're looking forward, then you have to come up with newer models and not just talk about alternatives. Alternatives must be with research and funding. So to those of you, if you are representing USAID or any other institution that has the ability to fund in research, fund in finding the alternatives and the green pathways, and also make sure that there is space to listen to the community, to the women, to the girls, and to the young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you very much for your really excellent speech by giving the experience of ActionAid and also how to improve the local resilience, particularly through climate proofing, involving women, and also to involve them in the decision-making process. So we are almost done. But what we actually learned from this three presentation and also from our discussion, that's emphasizing on the capturing the local knowledge. These kind of they have the knowledge. They have the knowledge. They in fact can provide you the solution. But that's this kind of activities or this kind of investment at the local level allow the local level organizations to capture their knowledge in the planning stages, and then from planning to the implementation, and from implementation to local level solution. So that's the knowledge you are using from the local level that you are actually taking to the local level solution. What is the learning from that? Actually, from the local level solution, it can be a global solution. It can be used for global scale up. So this is the climate change impact in vulnerable countries, including Bangladesh. These are this kind of knowledge, this kind of practices, this kind of experiences can be used by other climate vulnerable countries in the world. What also emphasized in this discussion and also presentation for collective decision making process, they have actually try to involve local people in the decision making process. So that is one of the important aspects to remember, how to involve all communities, like in stakeholders, those who are part of the project, be in the also decision-making process. Another part would be the nature-based solution, the nature-based adaptation. That is, in fact, in many activities, these three organizations were trying to emphasize on the nature-based adaptation practice. Farah also mentioning about the adaptation and also at the level in whether we'll move forward in order to be more resilient to address the climate change impact, or we are still on the same level just to survive ourselves. So that is very critical question to ask ourselves. What kind of adaptation, resilience are we giving to them? Whether that resilience, knowledge, and power can also help them to enhance their resilience power to go to the next level and solve the climate change crisis into their life. So that is also important, how to scale up and how to provide knowledge and fund and the technique so that these vulnerable people could actually lead a good, healthy life. Another aspect also mentioning during Farah also mentioned about the self-reliance. Self-reliance and economic inclusion is more important. I see one question asked by Tahamina from, she's a banker, I guess, whether that bank can be a part of this process. You see, look at that. The work we are doing, to me, is like an isolation. We are doing something in the isolation, not in a comprehensive manner. We did not approach any formal institution like banks or financial institutions to be part of this process. That means they are also thinking to be part of this process. Let's also think how to make a linkages between this community and the formal institutions like the banks or other institutions, so that these local people can actually access the facilities, the service that has been given by those formal institutions, because they have the right, the local people has the right to access those service and support. So this is very important. We should, all of us should remember this thing, and we should be very careful of designing our planning. Farhaba also provided some good example of localizations. I hope that these three organizations would be benefited from that experience, because we know them. We know Coast Trust, we know IPSHA and others. So these experience would definitely help us, and our three institutions would definitely be benefited from this discussion, and also from the knowledge that been provided by Shakil and also Farah.
Dr. Khan.
Yes, please.
Can I have just 1 minute?
Sure, Appa. Sure, please.
I wanted to pick up on something Shakil said, and a very important thing, that as we go into localization, we really need to provide support for these organizations on not on financial management, but financial governance, and on board and governance. You know, the culture in this country is board is a rubber stamp. Board is my family, my uncle, my wife, my sister. And so we truly don't practice the governance culture. And this is where I think we all need to make a contribution, because many of the organizations, it is understandable, there's a founder syndrome. Now, if I start a business, or if I have a founder syndrome, it's true in the corporate sector, it's true in the development sector. But and we will respect the founder syndrome, but we must also talk about governance. And if you don't have governance, it's not going to be for very long that you can guarantee fund flows coming to you. Just, I will share with an example, the Mackenzie Scott funding. You know, Belinda Gates is now separate, and she has set up the foundation, Mackenzie Scott Foundation. And they have given billions, you know, they have given to Canada, for instance, to one of my ex-colleagues, they got $19 million to Sajida Foundation in Bangladesh to brag. They gave this money after due diligence, not by putting in any application. They know about organizations, they look, they find the organization, then they do due diligence, and then it's just a phone call. You will see on LinkedIn and Twitter that everybody's talking about that phone call which changed their organization's life. It's amazing. And why? Because of due diligence. And what is due diligence? You must have all your policies, you must have your governance and your financial management. Ami gola jore chitla chili kore amake fund diben na, ami local, ami deshiyo NGO bollei dibe na. Ekta porjaye, and you know the funding landscape is highly competitive. And whether it is for humanitarian response, we are all going to struggle because of all the crises out there, or with it is development funding you want. Like, for instance, many countries are saying we're going to stop development funding, we're going to put more in humanitarian. Whatever the situation, you can only compete at the global level, and in fact, that should be true at the national level, if you have the governance and the financial health and management.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that our partners organization will listen carefully the point you have made for the financial governance and to ensure the due diligence in their practice. I'm sure. Otherwise, they could not survive. That's for sure. I do agree with you that they could not survive without that kind of governance. So financial governance, their management governance, their sustainability will depend on that. So definitely they will take. I would like to stop here, but before that, I would like to thank ICAR for organizing such an important global Gobeshona conference for all of us to participate and to share our experience from the field to the global level. Let me also thank Nature Conservation Management, NACOM, Arundhak Foundation, and CODEC for making these three presentations. And I would like to thank Dr. Mullah, Dr. Kuddus, and Sheetal Kumar Nath for making the presentations. And I would like to thank through this event, community people. These are the most important people. I would like to thank them to engage in this process and showing their actually commitment and also their in fact to continuation with this kind of activities in future. This is very much important. And thank you all participants, those who have participated, and thanks to all. Thank you very much.